sir. Yes, sir. What's going on? It's your boy AB, and welcome to another installment of Open Gym over here on Open Gym Network. I'm pleased to be with you guys one more time as we are here on this beautiful morning. I'm your host, AB. It's a sad moment, we already know while we're here. Let's get all the pleasantries out of the way. Obviously, we want to thank our partners over here at Open Gym Network with SeatGeek.com. Uh, any events, any concerts, sporting events, whatever it might be, I always use SeatGeek to get all of my tickets. And right now, if you go to SeatGeek and sign up on SeatGeek, you can use my promo code only the number one AB over on SeatGeek upon registration to receive $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. SeatGeek, the app for fans. Let's just hop right into it. Although it's a sad day, it's a beautiful morning. Snowing here in Philadelphia. Um, I obviously had some time to sleep, decompress. I did all my ranting, all my over the top, frustrations, spewing out and everything. I did all that last night or the night of the game. And let's just hop right into it. The Eagles versus Cowboys in the wild card. I'd say Cowboys, I'm sorry. The Eagles versus Buccaneers, wild card round. Monday Night Football, prime time. The Eagles lose to the Buccaneers 9-32. 9-32. Um, I already, talked about the game itself in detail, but let's dive into that just a little bit for what I've seen last night during that game. And what I seen was a lot of the same. Just a lot of the same. But what we have seen from this team from week one up until now in the playoffs and the wild card the wild card round, is pretty much the same. Rather we were healthy, rather we were hurt, rather we whatever it might be. Offense the same issues, the same issues applied when it came to the defense. Obviously, again, I'm gonna preface it by it being personnel based more so than the coach should have been or who the DC should have been, and we'll get into that personnel aspect of the defense shortly. But yes, they lost. No fight. Not gonna say everybody, but no fight or not prepared. I would say not disciplined. All the things that bothered us, even when we were winning early on in the season, and winning also, you know, covered a lot of things up as well, or not necessarily cover things up, but you put a blind's eye to it. Winning made us, say, hey, even though we have situations or concerns with this team, we're still winning. And that is true. Wins and losses at the end of the day, that's all that matters when it comes to the professional level of things and winning a championship, playoff games, whatever it might be. Winning does matter, but issues still persisted when it came to this team. And what we've seen all year was that nothing ever was corrected. Turnovers, never corrected. Discipline, never corrected. Penalties, never corrected. Offensive scheme, never corrected. Running the ball, never corrected. Never ran the ball. Jalen Hurts, turnovers, never corrected. Jalen Hurts, scanning the field, looking for other options, never corrected. Play calling, situational play calling, Time management, never corrected. Personnel, Howie Roseman, never corrected. And let's hop into the personnel situation first. Let's go defensively. I told people back when it happened, the transition of Sean Desai from DC to Matt Patricia would not have made much of a difference because the defensive side lacked talent in key areas, lacked production in key areas. So changing the defensive coordinator wouldn't have did so much because you still have the same players on the field, playing the same positions, being the same age, lacking the explosiveness, lacking the speed, lacking the awareness, lacking the agility, on top of injuries. Sean Desai didn't wasn't great at his job, but I also graded that on a curve knowing what the personnel was. Sean Desai was the same guy who ran the defense against the Kansas City Chiefs, who ran the defense against the Buffalo Bills, who ran the defense against the Miami Dolphins. Sean Desai was just going through a gauntlet. Was just going through a gauntlet. In his first year as defensive coordinator, with the lack of talent and the lack of athleticism on the defensive end. But he did what he could do with what he had. Sean Desai didn't have a 70 sack defensive line this year. Sean Desai did not have a Kaiser White or a TJ Edwards playing linebacker. Sean Desai did not have a 1 year younger James Bradbury, 1 year younger big play Slay. Sean Desai did not have a Chauncey Gardner Johnson playing safety. Sean Desai did none of that. Did not have any of those personnel pieces, rather it be age or just a certain player being here, personnel being here, or production from the defensive line. Sean Desai had to work with what he had to work with. And did fairly well for me. Again, I didn't say, oh, he should be defensive coordinator of the year, anything like that, or that he didn't have mess ups or should have situationally put our players in certain situations or maybe blitz even more as we see down the line while he didn't blitz a lot because we don't have anyone to be able to actually blitz. We don't know how to blitz. We don't know how to hit the gaps when we blitz. So Sean Desai was working with all these things and still had a decent defensive team. So when the move came during the middle of the season, not week 3, not week 4, when these defensive struggles were still there, even though we were winning, we still were giving up points, giving up a lot of yards, we were still winning. Sean Desai got the boot, got demoted up into the box. Like I said, in the middle of the year, I believe it had to have been like week, I want to say 13 maybe, where they made the move to Matt Patricia. So let's break this down a little bit, because all of this is going to correlate to the locker room dynamic that was in place in the so-called culture that was at hand during the season, because all this will correlate together and as we transition to our off-season moves. So I can only imagine certain players who actually played well under Sean Desai not be too fond of him being demoted and Matt Patricia coming in. Not only that, you had to think about Sean Desai all year. Matt Patricia, even though we didn't see him on camera or on the field, he was in the meetings every day. He was around the facility. So I can only imagine what the day to day was for a guy like Sean Desai, knowing that they literally have a person in the building, and I don't care what no one says, they brung the man in here for that particular reason that happened, just in case Sean Desai, I guess, didn't meet the criteria or whatever, or living up to par to being a defensive coordinator, that Matt Patricia was waiting in the wings. So I know that couldn't have been a good feeling for a guy that's getting his first shot at fully running the defense, calling the plays, and really trying to make a name for himself. Again, no excuses. He wasn't the best, wasn't the greatest, but I tell you, time and time again, that move was not going to make a better situation for this team defensively because they lack so much on the defensive side. So let's get into the offense. Nick Sirianni, Brian Johnson. Obviously, Brian Johnson is an easy scapegoat that should be fired or want to let go, demoted, whatever you want to do. Obviously, that's easy for me, But for me, it all goes down to the head coach because the head coach outwardly said himself this is his offense, that he takes input from his coaches throughout the week, but that this is his offense and that play sheet, that call sheet that you have, that half a menu of a call sheet that they have on the sideline that he's calling from, that's all Nick Sirianni. So not that Brian Johnson was good at his job, because although those might have been his plays or his calls, Nick Sirianni that is, Brian Johnson somehow you just have to just like maybe pick something up. Or even if we only have 3 run plays on the call sheet, let's try to just running them 3 a lot, a little bit more, instead of throwing the ball so many times. So since week 1 up until this wild card game, offense, the exact same. Offense, the exact same. Even missing a guy like A.J. Brown, who we all know still to this day, even not having the success down the stretch of the season, was still top 5 in yards, receiving yards this year, even though he didn't finish the season as strong as he started within the first 5 games. Having the Dallas Goedert back, having the Devontae Smith, who showed his butt off, looked like the only person that actually wanted to play. So all these things came crashing down towards the end because the issues never got fixed. The offense never, not that you got to switch up or change drastically, but there are no subtle adjustments all year. Week 1 to wild card weekend, the offense has repeatedly been the same. That's on coach. That's on coach. For the NFL and NFL defenses to figure out what we were trying to do, mostly with a lot of the plays being on the outside being made or going downfield, wanting the explosive play, as Nick Sirianni vehemently explains and says how he wants his offense to be. That's what they played. But once defenses make adjustments, yes, you don't have to go away from the core of what your offense is, but you have to adjust to what the adjusters has adjusted to. Once they're playing you man-to-man, blitzing you a lot more, you can't have long developing routes. And we seen it the night of the game with the Buccaneers. They literally blitzed every play. And what did Nick Sirianni do, or Brian Johnson do? Nothing changed. Nothing was, under the center, bootleg, roll out, cut down half the field, get the ball out quickly, stuff, tight end seam plays, crosser routes, slants. I've seen some slants, but we talking about they were periodically, where it's like it should have been more of that early on to where you can back them off of blitzing you. And then obviously running the ball. We have we can't continuously say we have one of the best offensive lines in the game and knowing that their best attribute, although they are solid in certain personnel pieces and maybe collectively they're solid at pass protection, but we all know that their main trait and their best quality as an offensive line is run blocking. So you don't play to the strengths of your offensive line, your quarterback, nor your wide receivers and running backs. This offense is a it can be a quick strike offense, but it has to be built up and led up and it has to build up to that. It has to play off of something. And that playoff is the run game. We seen early in the game, ran 2 times with DeAndre Swift, beginning of the game. First run, 10 yards. Second run, 8 yards. Stuff like that. When you see those things as a fan, watching it from your TV and the stands, wherever you might be, you say, okay, more of that. But when you go on after that to just throw, Jalen Hurts not being himself, obviously has some regression in areas of his game this year. I'll get to him later as well. With the dislocated finger, no excuse. But nothing never catered to what was needed for this offense to succeed in each individual game. It was always, we're going to do what we do, and when we don't have no other answers, let's give it in Jalen's hands, and hopefully he can make a play with one of our playmakers on the outside. So let's get into some of the stats that night. So to end the game, Jalen Hurts finished the game 25 for 35, 250 yards, and 1 touchdown. 35 times. You never want Jalen Hurts to throw 35 times. DeAndre Smith finished the game with 10 carries, 34 yards. Kenneth Gainwell, 4 carries, 3 yards. Devontae Smith had a hell of a game, a monster game with 8 catches, 148 yards, averaging 18.5 yards a catch. You had some guys that tried to help here and there. Nothing real significant. Julio Jones caught 3 passes. Offense, same. You would think a lot more running. I'm looking at DeAndre Swift, 10 for 24. He easily should have had 20 carries, 25 touches total, passing and rushing. In a game like this, no A.J. Brown. Jalen Hurts throwing the ball 35 times against a team that's literally blitzing you every play was not the recipe that you needed to go out there and do. Smitty, Devontae Smith went out there and gave it all. Played his heart out. Tried to rally the teams, showed some emotion out there. And before I even get on the defense negatively for this game, they played pretty well for the most part. Overall, you had individuals who stunk. But as far as what this offense needed to be able to get away with this win, they did. It was 5 possessions. 5 possessions that the defense held the Bucs to a field goal, and then 3 consecutive punts. And those are not accounting the 2 field goals because they got points out of it, but the 3 punts were the not letting the Bucks get any points or opportunities that the Eagles could steal and get back into this game. And you know what they did with all those possessions? Not score one single thing. Nicholas Murrow, 7 tackles. Brandon Graham, 5 tackles. Kevin Byard, 5 tackles. Zach Cunningham, 4. He had some tackles. Brandon Graham threw in a sack out there. Josh Sweat gave you a sack. Nolan Smith a half a sack. Milton Williams showed up with a big sack that took the ball away. Gave the offense another possession as well late. Fletcher Cox a half a sack. So the OGs, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, played their heart out, did what they could do, gave you what they can give you. Young guy Milton Williams gave you what he can give you. But again, the offense. Say it once, I'll say it again. The NFL is an offensive league. There are not many major defenses. There are not many dominant defenses in the league. You literally can count on one hand how many they are. But it's an offensive league and you must score points. And they could not. Could not score points again. So let's get to this defense. Defensive side. Where do I start? I know where I can start. And I promise you, I have the utmost respect for these players, these athletes. I am not a guy that looks at them as just, meal tickets or entities, or just they're people. So I understand feelings, I understand thoughts, I understand, moods, and they go through things in life that might even affect their work life, whether it's having a kid, whether it's, school, a kid being bad in school, or, maybe marital girlfriend issues, or whatever. You lost your dog, like whatever it might be. There are people too, so I understand. So I don't discredit them, and I don't say certain words, especially when it comes to their ability and their performance on the field. Because, like I said, they made it to the professionals, where it's thousands and thousands of kids every day work their butt off all their life to make it to these leagues, NFL, NBA, NHL, MLB, MLS, whatever you want to go to, work their tails off, get to this point, and then have opportunity to actually make it and make a name for themselves. It's a major thing, because these are the cream of the crop, the top of the top. But I'm here to tell you, James Bradbury, from from last year, 2002-2003 season, the year they went to the Super Bowl, to this year, 2023 to 2024, the drop-off was so dramatic, so frightening, and was so disheartening to see. It's no way. I don't know if it was the money he finally got. Not finally, because he didn't get paid major, but he also got paid and got years behind it. And you come out this season from week 1, I might add. Yes, I think he had an interception this year that wasn't as egregious early, but since week 1 to now, James Bradbury has been an absolute tragedy of a cornerback in the NFL. And last night, on the biggest stage with the brightest lights, he shined the most in the most negative way possible. And then, knowing that, and I know it played a thing into his mind, but knowing that, just gives up after that. The fight in him was gone. He didn't want to tackle. He didn't want to cover. He's already slow-footed. James Bradbury this year has been an absolute tragedy of a pickup this year. Defensive line, 70 sacks last year. This year, they probably only got about 40, if that. Hassan Reddick, even though I believe he has double sacks again this year, if he has that, I didn't get a time to check the stats. I wanted to just come out here and just give you the most authentic approach of how I feel about this team, because this is all about a reaction to it. We can go about the numbers and everything else later on. This is all about what I believe this team has done and what they need to do moving forward. Hassan Reddick, after the first, 8 weeks of the season, Josh Sweat didn't record a sack until last night against the Bucks. Since week 8, it is 18 weeks in the NFL season, and we were on 19 because we were in the playoffs, and he didn't get a sack. Jordan Davis started off the season well, in shape. Again, I'm not going to put it past that he doesn't work or try to do work or be, work out on his conditioning or anything like that. But what else can you point to when it comes to the drop off? When in the beginning of the season, he was moving. He was a mountain moving man. And now he's the mountain being moved by men. This is what I'm speaking about. The linebackers are totally the linebackers. That Cunningham was a solid linebacker all year. He is one player who actually showed up and played, dropped 2 picks last night that he could have had last night. So Zach Cunningham definitely played. But Kobe Dean, injured all year. And then when he did play, didn't do much. Nicholas Morrow, just a special teams player, having to play linebacker. Shaq Barrett, who we acquired at before the trade deadline, or not trade deadline, I'm sorry. We acquired once he was released from Indianapolis. Shaq Leonard, I'm sorry, I said Shaq Barrett. That's on the Bucks. Shaq Leonard didn't give you much, although not here long enough, but still would think he would give you just something more. Safeties. Reed Blankenship's not athletic enough, not fast enough. Might be smart, might want to do certain things, not scared to hit, but isn't athletic enough, isn't fast enough to play the safety position. You go out and get Kevin Byard, all pro, 2-time Pro Bowler, captain of the Titans. And I don't know if it was maybe what was being ran, but once we got him, he didn't get what we needed to get from him. Don't doubt he didn't try, but we didn't get what we needed to get from him. Sidney Brown, young, athletic, fast, has promise, has future, but can he stay on the field? Then back to these cornerbacks. Slay, solid year, still can move, very smart, definitely not as fast anymore, but definitely his smarts make up for that and still can play. But then you have James Bradbury, who's totally trash. Right now, James Bradbury is trash. Deebo Samuels defended you from Deebo Samuels for years, not years, but for a long time. All off season going into this season. You came out here and proved that man wrong. Proved that man right, rather. All 3 levels defense. So this moves me on to this off season. What needs to be done? And Howie, not that he's on the hot seat, but this season falls on Howie as well. Not making an adequate precedence on bringing in linebackers, signing or trading or drafting More so, linebackers. Drafting a safety or a cornerback. Getting the defensive end. All these things. That's on Howie. Wanting that control over the team, wanting to get the credit for things, hiring a head coach that you can manipulate and use and tell what to do, that's on Howie when it's a bad season like this. That's on Howie. So if I'm sitting there as Jeffrey Lurie, it's a lot of decisions that need to be made. It's a lot of decisions that's going to be made. And there will be heads to roll. There will be heads that roll. Absolutely. This offseason, for me, it's a total overhaul. I know overhauls are not the thing you do because there's so much change. But you can't sit here and tell me, as Jeffrey Lurie, the product you've seen for the last month and a half, plus this offense, or plus this uh, playoff game, that people won't be moved or fired. Players in the locker room, especially if you want to talk defensively speaking, got guys that was Deshaun Desai guys who then when he got moved and they felt like he probably shouldn't have been moved. Then you get a guy like Matt Patricia that come in, and you got these young guys that's playing now and was learning one way, but now we have to learn a whole nother terminology and a whole nother way because we have a new defensive end. That's on you, Howie. That's on you, Howie. I feel like that change was a panic move. Also, one of the breaking points of the season where you knew it wasn't going to end well. So now you have division in that when it comes to your defensive locker room. Then offensively, literally, again, another report hours before the game started that offensive players don't know who is calling the calls, Nick Sirianni or Brian Johnson. Why is that even a question? Why is the line of communication, rather it is coming from Nick to Brian to quarterback to field, why is that even a conversation? Why is that even an issue? You ever play the game Whisper Down the Lane? You know how you start on one end, tell a secret, and as it get down, whatever the statement was or the secret was, it turns into a whole another secret or statement. That's essentially what it sounds like was happening. It was so many moving parts and so many brain activities going on that it reflected on the field. The players played exactly how coaches coached. Scattered. Don't know. Confusion. All these things. So for me, this season has to do a total overhaul. And I'm talking about coaches for sure. OC, head coach, DC. All three has to go. Has to go. And I need Howie Roseman to put his pride aside. We know you were butthurt when you got sent to the equipment closet once Chip Kelly came in and took over. We understand you were upset. You redeemed yourself in certain areas. You got that Super Bowl. But bring in an offensive coach and let that man coach. Let him be a coach. Let him run his plays. Let him run his scheme. Let him utilize the players because there was no reason, and this is a detriment to the head coach more so than Howie and the OC as well, that it was too much talent on this offensive team or this offense on this Eagles team, too much talent for them to go out there and play the way they played all year. There's no way you can tell me if you let someone else in their role that this team shouldn't have not been better. This offense has been underachieving all season long. Yes, you might not think that because we won games, but I do put that on more so Jalen, AJ just being superheroes. Devontae Smith being superheroes. DeAndre Smith against the Bucks week 3 being a superhero. That's what I put that on. Too much talent on this team for this team to go out there and lay an egg and put that product on the field like that on a national stage in the playoffs. Too much talent on this team. They should be embarrassed. They should be upset, frustrated, all those things when it comes to this season. They should be. Because there's no way this season should have ended the way it should have ended. This goes par on what the Phillies did this season. Talented roster. Goes to the playoffs and lose to an inferior team. And before I get to it, I don't want to see another 24 on a cornerback ever. Ever. James Bradbury, Nnamdi Asomugha are one and the same. One and the same. We got bamboozled, tricked, all the above. Offseason, I'm making the move at head coach. I'm making the move at offensive coordinator. Obviously, when you change the head coach, they most likely will bring in their offensive coordinator. I'm making the move at defensive coordinator because we already know Sean Desai said he's not returning. And then you have Matt Patricia, who we all know or should know, or that I definitely know, it's not good. Never showed me that he was a good coach, let alone defensive coordinator. Who would I want? Obviously, you have early candidates. I do not want Bill Belichick. DC maybe. But then again, you got a guy like Mike Vrabel. I'm high on Mike Vrabel. I like Mike Vrabel. Reunite him with A.J. Brown. But, I mean, obviously we have to dive into it a little more this offseason and see what we got. But coaches changes have to change. OC, DC, head coach, and how we needs to draft players, linebackers, safeties. We got a lot of young cornerbacks, so maybe they can develop and grow. Eli Ricks, Kelly Ringo, the guys like that, And I'm going to say this. I feel bad for Jason Kelce because he's also announced that he's retiring. This was his last season, and this is probably not the way. I know it wasn't the way he wanted to go out. Even though he probably didn't think necessarily Super Bowl. He wanted the Super Bowl, but not this way he wanted to go out. So I feel bad for the guy, Hall of Famer, played almost every game, all seasons with the Eagles. Jason Kelce, congratulations. Your illustrious career. We all know you're a Hall of Famer. Philly, we always love you. The Mummers outfit, the Super Bowl, the speech, all that. Jason Kelce, we all love you here in Philly. And I just want to give a shout out as well to the other OGs that might be departing after this season, like a Brandon Graham, like a Fletcher Cox. My guys, like I said, BG, my guy. Appreciate you, and if you are able to come back at least one more year, we're going to send you out right that farewell tour. Man, bad time in Philadelphia, but we got a chance to write this. Next season, we have a chance to write this if we do the right thing. How we do the right thing. Get us a head coach, take your hands off, get us a DC, and let them men coach. I'm your boy AB, and we are out here. Yes, sir.